Okay, studying abroad 101. We're going to get into it. So, this is just the general overview of what we're going to talk about today. So, your reasonings and goals for studying abroad, how to budget and save up for it, what you should be doing before you go, how to deal with culture shock, and the courses you'll be taking abroad, and any extra tips about exploring while you are abroad. And then we'll leave time for questions after. Okay, so this is just something to think about before you're even thinking about what program you want to go into or what country you want to check out for the semester for a quarter. Um, what are your goals for going abroad? What are you expecting or trying to learn when you're going abroad? Maybe incorporating that into your major or a future career goal, or maybe just wanting to learn more about a certain country in general. These are things just to think about as you decide what your program may be and what if there is a specific focus. Um, Brenda, would you like to speak on maybe the reasons why you chose your program?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the reason I decided to study abroad was, I always wanted to study abroad, but it just timing, I just didn't really work out, and I started looking into it, and my junior year was definitely my hardest year, and I literally felt like I needed a break, like I needed some change or something, because I felt like I just was getting really overwhelmed with school, and I was like, I need some change, like I can't do this anymore. So I started looking into studying abroad for my first year of my senior year, my first semester. And I went back and forth a lot with my study abroad advisor and asking her like what country I should pick, like what I should do. And I mean, I settled with like Finland last minute because I was literally all over the place. It. I'm also a bit indecisive. I started off originally with wanting to go to Spain, then ended up choosing Colombia. Was working on my application. No, I mean not Colombia, Chile. Was working on my application to Chile, then ended up switching to Peru, and then finally ended up in Finland, which I don't regret at all. Absolutely love Finland. And I actually went into it with like no expectations. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just. My advisor actually was like, recommended Finland. She said everyone that goes to Finland absolutely loves it, ends up extending their stay. She said maybe you should go find out why everyone loves it so much and come back and tell me. And I was like, okay, I guess. So that's what I ended up doing, and ended up choosing Finland. Applied the day that my application was due. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't recommend it. But it ended up working out great, and I loved everything about Finland. It was a bit of a random country. I mean, everyone like was asking me like, why Finland? Why Finland? Um, and I mean, I did have my reasons. I didn't just go because it's like, oh, my counselor recommended it. But I mean, the politics of Finland, I wanted to know more about it. They have like one of the best education systems in the world. They have like really good social services. It's also one of the safest countries in the world. And I was like, well, I've never been to Europe, and this is my first time going, like traveling alone to like a foreign country. Maybe Finland is a good idea. So I was like, okay, I mean, it's one of the safest countries. So decided to go to Finland, and just loved everything about it.
Awesome. It was
Yeah.
a journey in itself. So that's great. This is the important piece that one we're going to talk about now, and also for anyone who wants to learn more about budgeting for abroad opportunities, we're going to have another webinar in February to talk about that as well, just so you all know. But saving up for your study abroad opportunity, that's one of the big kind of worries, at least for myself when I was studying abroad, that I was just like, okay, how am I going to finance this? And I know my school can only give me so much money, and any scholarship that I was a part of can only give me so much money. So how can I make up the difference? So if you're thinking about studying abroad and you're already into the application process, looking at scholarships within your school, within the program itself, the study abroad program, and also elsewhere. I actually got my flight to there or to Botswana. I went to study abroad in Botswana, which is in the southern part of Africa, and back. for free, or not for free, but it was covered because I applied to a scholarship within the actual program that no one really applies for. And it was a simple application and didn't have to pay for my airfare, which was like a big ticket item. And then also just applying to outside scholarships as well, and maybe even looking into your major and seeing how maybe research you can do or things like that, and seeing where you can get the money that way. A quote that Brenda brought up when we were talking about this webinar and how she went through her process of sacrificing the now for the blessings in the future. Brenda, would you want to speak on that quote and what you did to save up?
Yeah. Okay. So I had my internship through SRA during the summer. So I was interning at Justice Now in downtown Oakland. And I mean, that wasn't going to be enough to cover my expenses in Europe. So definitely, I would say when you're budgeting, like take into consideration the exchange rate of the country that you're going to be in and like their currency rate. So are you going to have buying power, or is their currency a lot more than here in the US? The euro is only like it's $1.20 to like a euro. So I mean, it's not a lot of a difference, but it does add up. So like $100 here is like not going to be 100 euros there. So definitely take that into consideration. So I ended up having to get like a lot of side jobs. So I was babysitting a lot. Like I would, after my internship, I basically didn't have a summer. After my internship, I would go work at a babysitting job. So from like, I would go in like at, let's say like 10, and then maybe come home like at midnight or something, depending on like how long the family needed me. And I was working almost every day for like hours and hours, and I was okay with it because I was like, well, I'm not gonna have a summer, but it's okay because I'm going to like explore Europe. I'm going to explore this whole new different country and meet a whole bunch of different people, and like I want to be able to like indulge and like live in the moment like while I'm there, and not be like, oh, I wish I could go with you guys, but I can't because I don't have enough money. So I was like, okay, you know what, like I'll be okay if I don't really have the summer, but I know I'll make up for it in once I'm abroad. And that's exactly what happened. I like didn't really have to turn down anything much because I had saved enough money to be like, oh yeah, I can do that. Like, yeah, it's fine. Like it's within my budget. It's fine. So definitely it's better to like require a lot more money than you think. And it's even better if you come back and you don't even spend like all of your money. So definitely try to save up as much and like work however much you think you can. Obviously, like self-care. Don't like go overboard and crazy to the point where you're like not sleeping. But definitely like find a balance and know that like it will pay off in the end.
So for that, to maybe help you all with budgeting and finding your groove and how to do all that, you can also check out the hub. I hope you all are using, going to sracollegecareers.org, and then it'll take you to the hub, and then clicking on the resource bar, and then going to monthly budget. And there, while you're during over the summer, while you're figuring out, okay, what's my whole semester gonna look like, you can click on our monthly budget tracker, and there you can input things allocated to, okay, for eating out, I want to use this much money to be eating out. You can change these as well to like, this is my traveling while I am abroad budget, how much I'm allotting to that section and things like that. You can put that here, and then just managing your money, so you're not, by the time you're at the end of your semester, you're like, oh wait, I don't have enough for my flight back home, things like that. So just managing your budget there and before you go. And then also checking out our scholarship list over here on the website to check out. There are multiple scholarships for different opportunities. It's up to you to just to search through them, and we also have search engines as well. It's just a great place to start your journey or your search to find ways to fund your trip. All right, cool. So I got to get along because we're running a bit behind, but so that was saving up. And then just before you go, making sure to, and I think these things you have to do before you even leave, is to speak with your academic advisor to make sure that you're on track even before you leave. So when you come back, you'll be able to graduate on time or within a timely manner. And meeting with the study abroad office advisor as well to see what courses work or overlap. So making sure to meet with both your academic advisor and your study abroad advisor to ensure that both of what they're saying kind of overlaps. And then also meeting with your financial aid office at your school, because your package at your school may not always cover what is happening abroad. And that could be because it's different currencies and how much which one is weighed more than the other, things like that. So do not rely on just your financial aid package at your home school to cover your study abroad opportunity, because there's so many things that can fluctuate. And then making sure to attend your study abroad orientation. For myself, this was very helpful because basically nobody else well, this is something I still went to my orientation, but no one else went to Botswana before me. So when I had the study abroad orientation, there was a general overview of like, this is how you should be as an American going to a different country, and these are things to look out for, the general thing. But I didn't have someone to speak to that could maybe tell me about the local language or the culture and things like that. I had to reach out to people from other UCs that did the program. So it's very, very important that you do go to your orientation, and especially if it's a popular program, that you'll have insight from students and how to get along once you're there. That. And then this is just something that everyone experiences is culture shock. When you're studying abroad, you kind of have to switch how you see your life. Everything's different. The time period, most likely, the people, the attitude, the culture, it's no longer familiar to you. So you're kind of like stuck, and maybe sometimes don't know how to react or go forward. And so it's just, this is something that you want to keep in mind that you may experience when you're abroad. And Brenda, if you want to quickly or briefly just explain something in Finland that you weren't necessarily aware of, that kind of took you back.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, just going to Europe, I assumed that everyone would speak English. That wasn't really the case. Finland is actually pretty good in English, but not every person I ran into spoke English, especially like the older generation. So I did have to use Google Translate a lot. Definitely like download it. If you're planning to go to another country, you can also like take pictures of stuff and it'll like translate it, by the picture. Also, like, I mean, like the amount of trust in Finland is like incredible. It's like, again, like it's one of the safest countries in the world. So like people really trust each other there, which was like really like weird to me and like different. I would say because like you would go out to like a club or a bar or something and there'll be like coat hangers. Some places did have check-in like a cloak room, but like this, like there would be other places where you just have coat hangers. So you would go like leave your coat, come back and take it, and it would be there. Everything in your pockets will still be there. No one would go through your stuff. Same thing like when you would go out and eat in like the cafeteria, they'll have like little coat racks. You'll leave your coat with your backpack. Everything would be there. I struggled with that a bit. Like I only tried it once and it was like towards the end of my trip, and I like didn't really feel comfortable, not because of the people, it just like I just wasn't used to it. But it did definitely like get me to like just be like, oh well, like there are people in the world, like you can definitely trust a lot more people than you think. But always of course be aware of your surroundings. But it's like Finland, I was like in a really small town too. So it was like very like strange to me just to see people leaving stuff everywhere and like no one would take it, like no one would bother you. And also like again like in Finland, like towards the winter, towards the end of the year, like the sun sets and rises, so the sun's only out for like 3 hours, 2 hours. So that was also again a big culture shock. I wasn't used to it. I mean, I go to school in LA, so it's just sun all the time, and there I was barely getting any sun. It did get a bit sad at times, but I mean, I was surrounded by like amazing group of people, so we would just talk about it. But definitely like be able to like definitely what helped me is just like was being able to like speak to someone that was either going through the same situation as you were or someone that had already gone through it, to like I was able to speak to like one of my friends that studied abroad last semester in London, and she could relate to me like in comparison, like everyone else, and she's like, you'll get through it. I got through it. It'll be fine. And I mean, it's true. Like just talking to people or like writing about it will definitely help you overcome your culture shock.
Yeah, and that's thank you for speaking on that because that's the next slide. Is just how you can not either avoid culture shock or not get hit with it super hard. So, like I said, speaking with people who went on the trip before you, friends, or just networking maybe from the actual orientation itself is a great way to ease your worries and kind of be one step ahead of things that you may encounter when you are abroad. And then just learning as much about your country as possible. This is something that I didn't do. I was just so excited to go abroad, but I didn't take the time to learn much about Botswana, which is something I wish I had done. But once I got there, I was in a crash course of like, oh, this is what it's like to be here. And I wish I had taken the time to learn more about the country beforehand, so I didn't feel that initial shock of being in a country so different from my own. And then also, I know it's scary, but making the active choice to hang out with locals and the college students that you're with. A lot of the Americans in my group when I went to Botswana, we all stuck together. But I chose to do a homestay family, so that way I was forced to be around locals and that I couldn't run away to be with people who were like me. Um, and I think that was really helpful in me understanding the culture and really appreciating my time abroad. So me going and staying with the host family and having a host mom and sister really taught me a lot about the culture that maybe my friends who stayed in the dorms didn't get as much of because they stuck with the same American. Um, yeah, so that's for the most part. I think those are and writing down, also having a journal, like Brenda said, of like just your thought process, what you hope to gain out of this whole experience, what's your day to day look like, and really reflecting on that. It helps a lot with dealing with the culture shock because honestly, like it's cliche as it sounds, like you do learn a lot about yourself when you come towards the end of your trip about experience and what you've learned. So
Also to add on to that, so your program, so there's a lot of programs when it comes to studying abroad. So your program was more like like you were surrounded by Americans, whereas my program, it was only 2 Americans, and I was only one from my school. And everyone else, like I lived in the dorms, and everyone else was from Europe or Asia. And like other parts of the world in like South America and stuff, but I was like one of the only Americans there. And I definitely loved it at first. I was like, oh my God, like there's a whole, like everyone, like if you saw like a whole bunch of French people sticking together, a whole bunch of Germans, but like everyone ended up coming around and like they're just curious to know more about your country, more about where you come from. And it was like definitely an experience. And I mean, don't be afraid to like be the only one, because like, as you said, you'll learn more about yourself. You're put into like situations you would have like would never imagined before, and you're like wouldn't know like what you would do, but you're like put into the situation, so you have to come up with like a solution, and you're like, oh, you like grow more as a person, and you just learn a lot more about yourself.
and then courses abroad, just quickly going over this, like I said before in the previous slide, really, really, really making sure that you have the courses you need and that those courses match up, that you are not kind of just wasting a semester, because we don't want to waste a semester, especially for how much we're paying for this. So making sure that it's as many classes as you can that can count towards when you come back to graduation or to your major. Just making sure that's clear with your academic advisor and your study abroad advisor. And if you can get a syllabi beforehand, I would greatly recommend that, just to see what those courses look like and how possibly you can speak with your professors while you're still in your home country to see like, hey, will this course I like link up to what I may be experiencing when I'm in my home country. And then also, I mean, these are something you have to do before you leave, but getting your courses approved and signed off before you leave off to your journey. I know, Brenda, you said that you had your classes all set, but then something happened right before you left.
Yeah, so I had all my classes signed off and approved, and then once I got to Finland, they weren't offering that class anymore. So I mean, stuff like that might happen to you. To keep in contact with your advisor and be like, oh, and like also as your study abroad coordinator, like in the country that you're in, I mean, you're going to have someone that you can talk to there as well, and they can recommend classes. And what I did was just emailed my advisor back in Long Beach and asked them, is this okay? Like, can I take this class instead, since I didn't get it signed off? But I mean, it's a bit similar to like another class I could take. And she said, yeah, of course. So definitely just keep in contact and ask. Like, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, always advocate for yourself. This is something, especially when you're abroad, you got to advocate for yourself. So we have about like 5 more minutes, and I want to leave at least 2 for questions. But these are some quick tips that we thought we would bring to the table for you all just to think about when you are planning your vacation while you're abroad, because you will have time depending on when you go. If there's like winter break or spring break or things like that, you will most likely have time for a break for yourself. So it's best to do that once you're already in your host country. And we say that because you can get the inside scoop from locals about what's a good place to go, what's a sketch place to go that you may not get online from TripAdvisor or things like that. And also, it's a lot cheaper to buy your tickets once you're already there instead of buying it when you're. It's just in the whole money exchange. It's a bit simpler. And then, like, speaking on money exchanges, just making sure that you are notifying your bank before you leave that you're going to a different country, because they will deny your card or shut it down. And that was something that happened to me because I forgot that I was traveling to different countries within Africa, and I forgot to notify my country, oh, I'm also going here. And then my card was like shut off for a bit. I got it back on, but just making sure to be proactive, because you don't want to be stranded without any money, especially in a place you don't know. And again, recognizing your privilege, or not again, because we didn't say it yet, but as an American student or as a college student in general, you have your own privileges, and especially with the political climate that is happening now, just be very aware of your own country's history and all the baggage that we got and where you are in the host country that you're in, and just being aware of that and not being that American. So yeah, and then Google Translate. Really, really quick, Brenda, if you want to speak on, well, you said Finland, they don't speak English, so how helpful was Google Translate for you?
It was like very helpful, not just in Finland, well, also like throughout Europe, just like making sure like I picked out the right milk and stuff like that. But just going back real quick to like your maybe paying extra for ATM transaction fees. Make sure to like to maybe visit like other banks. So I got Charles Schwab, which a lot of students change to. And if you guys want, I can like write it down for you also. They don't have any fees at all, like even like withdrawal fees going over. And if you do get with a fee from like an ATM transaction, they'll refund you your money. So definitely like do your research, see if like what bank suits you best. Even if it means like opening a new bank account, like it will be worth it. Like trust me, like all of that adds up. So I mean, whatever you can save, do as much as you can.
Yes, that is definitely true. I wish I had done open another bank account, but I was like, oh, it'd be too stressful. But I lost a lot of money, a lot of the $3 fees, but those $3 fees or $5 fees add up. So, all right, cool. We got to the question section. Let me see. There's no questions right now, but is there anything else, Brenda, that you would like to share, or anything that we didn't get through because I was trying to make sure we ended on time?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like just another thing I would like want to share is like just being abroad, definitely like you learn a lot more about how other people view you too. Like obviously like recognizing your privilege and everything, but like I mentioned, like so here in like the US, just everyone just looks at me by the color of my skin, and they're like, oh, they assume they're like, oh, you're Mexican. So then you just start to internalize that. You're like, oh, I'm Mexican. But then like when I go to Mexico, they're like, no, you're not Mexican. You're American. You don't sound like us. Like, and so then when I went to like Finland and I was surrounded by all these Europeans, like there's no way I could deny like from the US. Like they're like, you don't even have to tell us. We can tell by your accent. And they just treated me like as an American. Like they never asked me anything about Mexico. They didn't even associate me with Mexico, which was so weird to me, because that has never really happened before. But I mean, I would just say, just try it out for yourself. See us, like, especially being like a person of color, like see what it's like for you. And you'll be surprised by like the reactions you get and stuff. Like, it's definitely an eye-opening experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Also, for students now, I uploaded or I launched the post poll question. So take this time to answer the post poll. After you've done doing that, you're free to go. Thank you all for being on this webinar tonight. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And if there are any questions that you would like to direct towards Brenda, again, email me and then I will send them her way. But yeah, I think we have about a couple more students that need to answer the question, and then we will end the webinar. Thank you all for joining in. Well, study abroad opportunities are, again, a privilege and they're amazing. And you learn a lot about yourself and about countries. And honestly, that's the best knowledge in itself is going to other countries. You really learn a lot more about a country when you're in it than just reading up about it in a textbook or in a lecture and things like that. And really seeing the effects of maybe certain policies or worldviews and things, how that shapes our own opinions of countries. So being in it, if you can, study abroad. Highly recommend it. All right. We have like one more person that needs to answer, but other than that, Brenda, you can leave the meeting and you're free to go. Thank you again so much for helping me with this presentation and joining me on the webinar.
Of course. Thank you guys. Have a good semester or quarter. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right. Thank you all for answering the questions. And again, have a good night. Yay. Everyone got the answers correct. Good job, everyone. Evening.